Have you ever noticed how some days your legs feel heavier than usual, or you struggle to get a good night's sleep no matter how tired you are? Maybe you've brushed it off as just getting old, a part of aging we all have to accept. But what if I told you it's not really about age? What if those little struggles with strength, balance, or rest aren't simply a sign that time is winning, but clues pointing to something we often overlook? This is a story many of us share silently, thinking it's normal to feel a bit weaker or more tired each year. Yet, the truth is, these signs can reveal hidden changes in our bodies that, if ignored, can slowly take away our independence and joy. It's something so common it's often dismissed, but it shouldn't be. In today's video, we'll gently explore why these subtle shifts happen and what you can do to reclaim your strength and peace of mind. By the end, I'll share one simple habit that can make a surprising difference in how you feel every day. Let's walk this journey together, step by step. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Have you ever sat in a quiet living room at the end of a long day and wondered how much of your life has been given to others? Maybe you look around at the family photos on the mantle. Smiling children, now grown. Grandkids who fill the house with laughter when they visit. Partners, parents, friends, each representing a chapter of your story. For many of us, especially as we reach our later years, that sense of a life spent in service, always giving, always caring, always putting others first, can feel both deeply meaningful and, at times, quietly exhausting. It's such a familiar story, isn't it? In so many American families, especially for those who grew up in earlier generations, we were taught from childhood that self-sacrifice was a virtue. Mothers went without so their children could have new shoes for school. Fathers worked double shifts to pay the bills, rarely complaining, resting. Even now, as we reach retirement or adjust to life as grandparents, that same instinct remains, offering to watch the grandkids so our children can get a break, cooking big meals for holiday gatherings even when our knees ache, lending a listening ear to friends and neighbors whenever they need support. Sometimes, we become so good at caring for others that we forget what it's like to care for ourselves. It's easy to brush aside our own tiredness, loneliness, or small aches and pains. After all, aren't we supposed to be strong? Isn't that what love means? Isn't that just part of growing older? But here's a question that might surprise you. Is constant sacrifice the only way to be loved and respected? We live in a culture that holds up the idea of the selfless parent, the tireless caretaker, or the always available friend as the gold standard. But what if there's another path? What if, after all these years of giving, it's not just okay, but necessary, to give back to yourself? What if honoring your own needs, protecting your peace, and even embracing a bit of solitude isn't selfish at all, but rather an act of wisdom and self-respect? Let's pause and consider this. How many times have you put off something you wanted to do? A walk in the park, a quiet afternoon with a book, even a simple nap, because someone else needed you? How often have you hidden your sadness or weariness so as not to worry your children, or felt invisible in your own home, as if your only purpose is to serve? These moments add up, slowly, quietly. They become the silent burdens many older Americans carry, rarely spoken of but deeply felt. And here's the thing. For many, that pattern feels so normal that it barely registers as a problem. Maybe you recognize this in yourself. A gentle fatigue, a sense that your days are filled with tasks for others, but your own heart feels a little emptier than it used to. Or maybe you notice it in a spouse, a friend, or a neighbor. Someone who always seems busy but never truly joyful. The paradox of aging is that, as families grow and change, roles can shift so quickly. One day, you're the center of the family's world, the reliable anchor. Next, you might find yourself sitting alone more often than before, missing the chaos but also realizing you no longer know how to ask for company or support. It's as if, after a lifetime of being needed, you're not sure what it means to simply be. For some, loneliness sneaks in quietly, disguised as freedom. The children are raised, the career is finished, and the house is quieter. At first, you think, now I'll have time for myself. But old habits are hard to break. You volunteer for every committee, say yes to every request, fill your calendar with everyone else's needs, because that's what you've always done. And when the requests stop, when friends move away or loved ones pass on, you might feel not just alone, but unsure of how to fill the empty spaces with things that truly nourish you. I remember talking to an older friend, Eleanor, who spent decades as the heart of her family. Every Sunday, her house overflowed with children, grandchildren, and neighbors. She was the one who organized birthdays, cooked for holidays, and remembered every special occasion. But after her husband died and her kids moved to different states, she found herself in a silent house. She kept busy, joined church groups, volunteered at the library, and made casseroles for anyone in need. "It's what I do," she said, "but sometimes I wonder if I'm doing it because I love it, or because I'm afraid of what's left if I stop." Science, too, has begun to recognize the impact of this lifelong pattern of sacrifice. Studies on aging in America have shown that while volunteering and social connection are important for seniors' mental health, there is a tipping point. Too much giving, without time for self-reflection or personal joy, can increase feelings of stress, depression, and even physical illness. Chronic caregiving, for example, is now recognized as a significant risk factor for heart disease, anxiety, and weakened immunity in older adults. And loneliness? It's not just an emotion, it's a health risk. Research from institutions like Harvard and the CDC shows that chronic loneliness in seniors is linked to higher rates of memory decline, sleep disorders, and even premature death. The human heart and mind crave connection, but also require rest, space, and moments of self-care to truly thrive. Why is this so hard to change? For many, the answer lies deep in childhood lessons and cultural stories. We grow up hearing about the greatest generation, about sacrifice during wartime, about the mothers and fathers who built the American dream one long workday at a time. These values, hard work, selflessness, resilience, are beautiful, but when taken to extremes, they can leave us feeling unworthy of receiving care ourselves. But what if, right now, you could permit yourself to rewrite the script? What if, instead of measuring your worth by what you do for others, you learn to value yourself simply for being here, for your wisdom, your kindness, your experience? What would it look like to honor your own needs with the same compassion you've always shown others? Let's make this real with a story. Consider George, a retired firefighter from Michigan. For most of his life, George was the guy everyone called in an emergency. He raised 3 kids, supported his wife through cancer, mowed his elderly neighbor's lawn, and ran the local community watch program well into his 70s. When his wife passed away, George threw himself even harder into volunteer work, rarely taking time for himself. At first, he felt purposeful, needed. But as the years went on, he noticed that even in a crowded room, he sometimes felt invisible. People thanked him, but no one asked how he was doing. He felt tired, physically, emotionally, spiritually. One day, after another long day of helping others, George's daughter gently asked, "Dad, what do you want to do with your time?" It was a simple question, but it shook him. He realized he didn't know the answer. He hadn't thought about his wishes in decades. At first, he felt guilty even considering his own needs. But with gentle encouragement, George started to explore what brought him joy. He dusted off his old guitar, started painting again, and took quiet walks by the lake. He still volunteered, but he said no sometimes, too. He made space for himself, and in doing so, he found a new kind of peace. This isn't about turning your back on loved ones or abandoning your values. Rather, it's about balance, about understanding that your life has value beyond what you provide for others. For many older Americans, the journey towards self-compassion begins with small acts, allowing yourself to rest when you're tired, saying no to commitments that drain you, asking for help when you need it, or taking up a hobby just because it makes you happy. Maybe you've never had a hobby, or perhaps you've forgotten what used to bring you joy. That's okay. It's never too late to start. Some people rediscover their love for music, painting, gardening, or even just sitting in a sunny spot with a good book. Others find satisfaction in quiet rituals, a cup of tea in the afternoon, a walk around the neighborhood, writing letters to old friends, or keeping a gratitude journal. These small moments of self-attention are not luxuries. They are necessities. They fill up your emotional cup, so you have more to give when the time is right. But what about loneliness? Isn't it true that being alone can be painful, especially after a life spent surrounded by family and friends? Absolutely. And yet, there is a difference between loneliness that is imposed on us and solitude that we choose for ourselves. Learning to enjoy your own company can feel strange at first, but it's also profoundly liberating. It means you are enough, just as you are, not because of what you do for others, but simply because you exist. Think about the quietest moments of your day. Maybe it's the hush of the morning before anyone else is awake, or the stillness of a twilight walk. Instead of rushing to fill that silence with activity or noise, what would it feel like to simply be present with yourself? To notice the rhythm of your breath, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the steady beat of your heart? These moments are gifts, opportunities to connect with yourself in ways that may have been neglected for years. There's also value in reaching out, not from a place of obligation, but from a place of genuine connection. Call a friend, not because you think you should, but because you genuinely want to share your day. Accept help from others without guilt, remembering that letting yourself be cared for is as much a part of love as caring for someone else. If you're able, join a community group, a book club, or a class, not to stay busy, but to be enriched, to grow, to enjoy. For some, seeking support may also mean talking to a counselor, pastor, or support group. It can be hard to admit that you need a listening ear, especially after a lifetime of being the strong one. But there is great courage in vulnerability, and great healing in sharing your story with someone who understands. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. You may also consider reflecting on your life's journey, not just the big accomplishments, but the quieter triumphs. The kindness you showed, the laughter you shared, the resilience you demonstrated in hard times. Every wrinkle, every gray hair, every scar is a testament to a life richly lived. Take pride in these, and let them remind you that you are worthy of rest, of joy, and of being seen. If you're feeling stuck, start small. Make a list of things that bring you comfort or joy, no matter how simple. A favorite meal, a phone call with an old friend, a walk in nature, a beloved piece of music. Schedule one of these small joys into your week, as if it were as important as any appointment for someone else, because it is. With each act of kindness toward yourself, you begin to rewrite the narrative. You are not only a giver, but also someone deserving of care. Let's return for a moment to the story of Eleanor, the matriarch who wondered if she loved serving others or was just afraid of what would happen if she stopped. With the support of her friends, she started a new routine. Every Friday, she set aside an hour just for herself. No obligations, no errands, just time to do whatever felt right. Sometimes she took a long bath, sometimes she worked on a jigsaw puzzle, sometimes she simply sat with her thoughts. Over time, Eleanor discovered that she didn't lose herself in solitude. Instead, she found parts of herself she'd forgotten. Eleanor also learned to speak up for what she needed. She told her children when she felt overwhelmed. She asked her neighbors for help with heavy chores. Far from pushing people away, this honesty drew her loved ones closer. They appreciated the chance to support her, just as she had always supported them. Eleanor's example rippled out to her friends, who began to rethink their own patterns of sacrifice and self-neglect. Change doesn't happen overnight. For many, the idea of putting yourself first, even occasionally, feels strange, even wrong. But with gentle practice, it gets easier. The goal isn't to become selfish, but to become whole, to understand that your well-being matters, not just for your own sake, but for the sake of everyone who loves you. So, if you find yourself feeling exhausted, taken for granted, or quietly lonely, know that you are not alone. Your story is shared by millions of older Americans, each navigating the delicate balance between giving and receiving, between togetherness and solitude. The wisdom of age is not just in knowing how to serve, but in learning when to pause, when to rest, and when to cherish yourself. Take heart, dear friend. The years you've spent caring for others have not gone unnoticed, but now is the time to turn some of that care inward. You are worthy of love, not just from others, but from yourself. You are deserving of peace, not just in the spaces between obligations, but in the center of your own life. As you move forward, I invite you to carry this thought with you. Love and respect are not earned solely by sacrifice, but by the quiet dignity of knowing your own worth. When you give to yourself, you create space to enjoy the life you've built, to savor the present, and to welcome whatever comes next with an open, peaceful heart. So tonight, as you settle in and reflect on your day, ask yourself, not out of guilt or regret, but with gentle curiosity, what would it look like to care for yourself as tenderly as you have cared for others? What small act of kindness can you offer yourself tomorrow? The answers may surprise you, and the rewards, I promise, are sweeter than you imagine. You are not alone on this journey. We are all learning together, step by step, how to find balance, how to embrace solitude without fear, and how to honor the quiet, steady light within ourselves. Thank you for being here, for sharing your story, and for letting yourself be seen, not just as a giver, but as someone wholly worthy of love and peace. There is a moment in life, often arriving softly, without fanfare, when the noise of the world begins to recede and the steady hum of your own heart becomes more noticeable. Perhaps it comes after a particularly busy holiday season, when the last guest is gone and the dishes have all been put away. Or maybe it creeps in on an ordinary afternoon, as you sit by the window with a cup of tea and realize the only sound in the house is the gentle ticking of the clock. For many older Americans, this new quiet can feel unfamiliar, even unsettling. After a lifetime of attending to the needs of others, raising children, caring for aging parents, supporting friends, being present for every crisis and celebration, the prospect of solitude can feel, at first, like standing on the edge of a vast and silent forest. But what if, instead of something to fear, this solitude is actually a gift, a gentle invitation to come home to yourself? It's natural, at any age, to equate being alone with being lonely. Our culture, for all its emphasis on individuality, still prizes togetherness. Families gathered around the dinner table, friends catching up at backyard barbecues, couples walking hand in hand at the local park. We see commercials filled with laughter and celebration, social media feeds full of smiling faces and bustling groups, and we might wonder, what does it mean then to spend time by yourself? Is it a sign of being left behind? Or, more quietly, a mark of failure? Yet, time and again, wisdom, both ancient and modern, reminds us that there is a profound difference between loneliness and chosen solitude. Loneliness is a hunger, a longing for connection that goes unmet. Chosen solitude, on the other hand, is nourishment. It is space made sacred by our own presence, a clearing in the forest where we can rest, reflect, and truly listen to the quiet voice within. Solitude isn't about shutting out the world, but about letting yourself in. It is not punishment, it's permission. Permission to heal, to explore, to simply be. In this space, away from the ceaseless demands of others and the constant chatter of daily life, you may rediscover the parts of yourself that once brought you joy, or even find new sources of happiness you never expected. Think for a moment. When was the last time you truly enjoyed your own company? Not because you had to, but because you wanted to. Perhaps you recall walking through a sunlit garden, letting your thoughts wander among the blossoms. Maybe you remember losing yourself in the pages of a good book, or sitting on the porch in the stillness of dawn, listening to the world awaken. These are not moments of loneliness, but of connection. Connection to the world, to memory, to yourself. Science, too, has come to celebrate the value of solitude, especially for those in their later years. Studies have shown that intentionally spending time alone can reduce stress, lower blood pressure, and improve mental clarity. When we step away from the swirl of daily demands, even for a little while, our minds have the space to sort through worries and process emotions. This clarity can bring a sense of peace, helping to ease anxiety and boost resilience against the challenges of aging. Solitude is also essential for creativity and personal growth. With no one else's agenda to attend to, we can finally ask ourselves, what do I want to do with my time? What brings me joy? What dreams, small or large, might I still want to pursue? For some, the answer might be learning to paint or play an instrument. For others, it could be writing down family stories, tending a small patch of tomatoes in the backyard, or simply mastering the art of doing nothing at all, without guilt or apology. Most importantly, solitude provides space for self-compassion. After a lifetime spent meeting the needs of others, it's easy to lose touch with your feelings and desires. Alone, you can sit with your thoughts, honor your griefs, celebrate your victories, and offer yourself the same tenderness you have always given so freely to those you love. But the path to chosen solitude is not always straightforward. It can feel awkward at first, even frightening, to step into that quiet space. Old habits and beliefs may tug at you. Whispers that being alone means you are unwanted, or that your worth is measured by your busyness. You might even hear the echoes of past voices. Parents, spouses, society itself, all urging you to keep moving, keep giving, keep doing. This is where courage comes in. The quiet kind, the kind you've demonstrated your whole life, though you may not always recognize it as such. It takes courage to turn inward, to claim time and space for yourself, to say yes to your own needs after years of saying yes to everyone else. It takes courage to trust that you are enough, just as you are. No one knows this better than Mrs. Linda Myers, a woman whose story echoes the experience of so many American seniors, though few tell it as openly as she now does. Linda grew up in a small Midwestern town, the eldest of 4 siblings in a close-knit, church-going family. From an early age, she learned the virtues of hard work, humility, and service. As a young woman, she married her high school sweetheart, raised 3 children, and became the glue that held her extended family together. She was the first to offer a meal when someone was sick, the last to leave the kitchen after Thanksgiving dinner, the ever-present shoulder for anyone in need. For nearly 50 years, Linda's life was a whirlwind of activity. She juggled the roles of mother, wife, caregiver to her aging parents, and later, doting grandmother. Even as she approached retirement, her calendar was packed. Babysitting, volunteering at the community center, serving on her church committee, driving friends to doctor's appointments, hosting family reunions. Linda loved her family deeply and took pride in her role as caretaker. But she rarely acknowledged how weary she sometimes felt, or how she quietly mourned the loss of her ambitions. Plans for travel, painting, and reading that were forever postponed for someone else's needs. The turning point came not with a dramatic event, but in a series of small, quiet moments. One afternoon, while sorting through a box of old photographs, Linda found a snapshot of herself at age 23, standing on a hiking trail in Yosemite, beaming with the unguarded joy of youth. She could hardly remember the last time she'd felt that free. Later that evening, as she sat alone in her tidy kitchen, Linda realized that her life, though rich with love, had become overwhelmingly full of obligations and empty of rest. Her days belonged to everyone but herself. For the first time, she let herself ask, what would happen if I chose to be alone, just for a little while? What if I let myself rest, not because I was too tired to go on, but because I deserved it? What if I said no, not out of anger, but out of self-respect? The idea felt radical, almost rebellious. But Linda was nothing if not determined. She decided to start small. She set aside one afternoon each week for herself, politely declining any requests for help, explaining gently but firmly to her family that she needed this time. At first, they were confused, even her, accustomed as they were to Linda's constant availability. But she held her ground. At first, those afternoons felt unfamiliar. She wandered through her own house, unsure what to do with herself. She tried reading but found her mind drifting back to her to-do list. She picked up her long-neglected paintbrushes, but her hands felt stiff with disuse. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But as the weeks went by, something shifted. Linda began to look forward to her time alone. She rediscovered her love for painting, allowing colors to spill across the canvas without worrying whether anyone else would approve. She took long walks in the nearby park, listening to the rustle of leaves and the chirping of birds. She even started writing letters to friends she hadn't seen in years, sharing her thoughts, her dreams, her gratitude for their place in her life. Linda also found herself sleeping better and laughing more. Small signs that the stress and fatigue she had carried for decades were finally lifting. She felt clearer, more focused, more at peace. Even her family noticed the change. Her children remarked that she seemed lighter, more content, and, perhaps most surprisingly, more available in spirit when she did choose to spend time with them. "I thought my family needed me to be everywhere, all the time," Linda says now, with a smile. "But the truth is, they just needed me to be happy. And to do that, I had to permit myself to matter too." Her story is not unique, though it remains quietly revolutionary. In a society that so often values busyness over being, Linda's decision to choose solitude, gently, deliberately, opened up new paths to joy. She did not retreat from her loved ones. Instead, she returned to them more whole, more present, more able to love freely because she was no longer running on empty. Psychologists and researchers have observed this pattern in seniors who learn to value solitude. The benefits are both measurable and profound. In studies, older adults who spend intentional time alone show lower levels of cortisol, the body's main stress hormone, and improved heart health. They report greater satisfaction with life, increased feelings of self-worth, and even sharper memory and focus. Solitude also offers emotional benefits that are harder to quantify but no less real. It can become a sacred space for healing after loss, a time to grieve in private and honor memories without interruption. For those living with chronic illness or pain, solitude can be a place to listen to the body's needs and find gentle ways to care for oneself, without the pressure to put on a brave face for others. Of course, solitude must be chosen, not imposed. There is a vast difference between being left alone and choosing to be alone. The former can lead to despair, the latter to discovery. The key, psychologists say, is agency. The sense that you are making this choice for your well-being, not because you have been forgotten or cast aside. If you are new to the idea of chosen solitude, it can help to start with small steps. Set aside a morning or afternoon just for you. Do something that feels nurturing. Take a nap, listen to your favorite music, sit in the sunshine, work on a puzzle, write in a journal. Notice how you feel. If guilt or anxiety arises, greet it with compassion. Remember, you are learning a new way of being, one that honors your needs as much as those of anyone else. Some seniors find it helpful to create a solitude ritual, a regular practice that marks this time as special. Light a candle, make a cup of herbal tea, or set out your favorite photos. These small acts can signal to your mind and heart that this is a time of renewal, not deprivation. You may also find that solitude becomes a wellspring of creativity and problem-solving. Without the distractions of constant conversation or obligation, your thoughts can roam freely. Ideas may surface for projects you want to try, places you want to visit, even simple improvements to your daily routine. Write these down. They are gifts from your deeper self. It's also important to remember that chosen solitude does not mean isolation from the world. Quite the opposite. Many people discover that time alone strengthens their relationships. When you return to your loved ones, you do so refreshed and grounded, able to listen more deeply and engage more fully. You may even inspire others, children, friends, neighbors, to value their own alone time and treat themselves with greater kindness. Linda's family, once uncertain about her new boundaries, has come to respect and even celebrate them. Her grandchildren have learned that Grandma has her painting days, and they love to see what she creates. Her children know they can count on her for advice and support, but they also know not to take her for granted. Linda herself feels more secure in her identity, not just as a caretaker, but as a whole person, with dreams and desires of her own. If you're still unsure about embracing solitude, think of it this way. Just as your body needs rest between activities, your spirit needs space between obligations. You have spent decades tending to the needs of others. Now you have the opportunity, indeed the right, to tend to your own heart. It is not selfish. It is essential. And if there are days when the quiet feels too heavy, remember that you are never truly alone. The world is full of people walking similar paths, each learning to balance connection with independence, giving with receiving, activity with rest. Reach out if you need support. Join a group or class where you can share your journey. Or simply take comfort in the knowledge that this time of chosen solitude is an investment in your well-being. A gift you give not only to yourself but to everyone who loves you. So, the next time you find yourself with an empty house and a few hours to spare, try welcoming the solitude. Sit in your favorite chair, close your eyes, and let the peace wash over you. Listen to the gentle beating of your own heart, and know that you are whole, you are worthy, and you are exactly where you need to be. As the years pass, you may find that chosen solitude is not a retreat from life, but a return to it, a way of coming home to yourself at last. In the quiet, you will discover not loneliness, but the freedom to heal, to create, to remember, and most of all, to love yourself. And in that gentle space, you may find a happiness that is both new and familiar. The happiness of belonging, at last, to yourself. After years spent caring for others, it can feel both liberating and unsettling to realize that the next chapter of your life is, in many ways, yours to write. The nest may be emptier, the calendar less crowded with other people's needs, the phone a little quieter. For some, this open space feels like a blank canvas. For others, it stirs up old anxieties or a nagging sense of guilt, especially if you were raised to believe that being busy is the same as being good. But solitude, when chosen and embraced gently, can become one of the richest gifts of later life. A time to rediscover yourself, protect your peace of mind, and reconnect with the world on your terms. If you've spent decades living for others, you might wonder where to begin. How do you move from a life of obligation to one that honors both your relationships and your need for rest and renewal? What does it look like, day to day, to care for yourself, set boundaries, nurture connections, and find inner calm? The answer isn't found in grand gestures or sudden changes. Instead, it lies in small, mindful decisions, made again and again, with the same kindness you've offered everyone else for so long. Start, if you can, with simple acts of self-care. Small rituals that remind you of your worth and bring quiet joy into your daily routine. Perhaps it's waking up a little earlier to sip a cup of coffee while watching the sunrise, letting the world come alive in gentle color before anyone else is stirring. Maybe it's rediscovering a love of reading, allowing yourself to be swept away by stories that transport you far beyond your living room. For some, it's tending a garden, feeling the earth between your fingers, watching life bloom from seeds you planted with patience and hope. Walking is another beautiful way to honor solitude. There's something meditative about moving your body through the world at your own pace, noticing the changing seasons, the scent of lilacs or autumn leaves, the cheerful calls of songbirds overhead. Each step can become a silent conversation with yourself, a way of grounding your mind and body in the present. And you don't need a destination. Sometimes, simply wandering is enough. If your health allows, try dedicating even 10 or 15 minutes a day to an activity that is just for you. Something that doesn't serve anyone else's agenda or needs. Over time, these small moments add up. They remind you, gently but insistently, that you are worthy of attention, affection, and peace. Another key part of embracing solitude is learning to set boundaries, especially with family members who may be used to your constant availability. This isn't about building walls or cutting people off. Rather, it's about creating healthy limits so you don't become burned out or resentful. You might explain to your children or grandchildren, lovingly and clearly, that you need time for yourself, that you won't always be able to babysit, drive them to appointments, or answer the phone at all hours. At first, saying no can feel foreign or even frightening. You may worry that you're letting people down or that they'll think you don't care. But consider this. When you set boundaries, you teach others how to treat you. You model self-respect, and often you inspire your loved ones to honor their own needs as well. Remember, love thrives in freedom, not in obligation. Social connection is also part of a healthy solitude. True solitude doesn't mean total isolation. Rather, it's about choosing relationships that nourish rather than deplete you. If you crave company, seek out meaningful groups, book clubs, gardening circles, senior centers, or volunteering opportunities. When you join by choice, not by duty, you're more likely to find genuine joy and camaraderie. Volunteering can be especially powerful. Many older adults find that giving back to their communities in small, manageable ways helps create a sense of purpose without the pressure of constant obligation. You might read to children at a local library, help tend a community garden, or serve meals at a food pantry. These experiences offer the gift of connection while also allowing you to protect your time and energy. Of course, one of the most powerful tools for finding peace in solitude is learning to calm your mind. Meditation and breathing exercises, though often associated with distant cultures or young yogis, can be profoundly helpful for people of any age. You don't need special cushions or incense or even a quiet house, just a willingness to pause, breathe, and pay attention. Try this. When you notice your thoughts spiraling into worry or restlessness, pause and take 3 slow, deep breaths. With each inhale, imagine drawing in calm and kindness. With each exhale, let go of tension and self-judgment. Even a few moments of this gentle practice can quiet your nerves and help you return to the present. If you're open to it, you might also explore guided meditations. Short recordings that walk you through relaxation, gratitude, or mindful awareness. Many libraries and senior centers offer free or low-cost classes. Even a simple practice like sitting in your favorite chair and watching the play of sunlight on the wall can become a form of meditation, if you approach it with intention and curiosity. To illustrate what this journey can look like in real life, let's meet John, an older man whose story might feel familiar. John spent his career as a high school principal in a small town in Ohio. He was respected by colleagues, adored by students, and always available for anyone who needed him. At home, he was much the same, helping neighbors fix their fences, volunteering for every school fundraiser, driving friends to the doctor, attending every birthday and wedding and community event, never missing a chance to lend a hand. After retiring, John assumed he'd be able to slow down, but the requests kept coming. His phone rang all day with people asking for help, rides, advice, company. For a while, he obliged, grateful to be needed. But after a year or so, John began to notice that he felt tired all the time. He was short-tempered, sleeping poorly, and sometimes found himself resenting the very people he cared for most. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. One evening, after a particularly exhausting week of commitments, John sat on his porch and stared at the stars. For the first time in his life, he wondered what it would be like to spend an entire day doing only what he wanted. No obligations, no favors, no apologies. It was a startling thought, and at first, he felt guilty for even entertaining it. But something inside him, perhaps the long-silenced voice of his own heart, urged him to try. The next morning, John did something he hadn't done in decades. He let the phone ring without answering. He made himself a big breakfast, took a long walk through the park, then spent the afternoon tinkering with a model train set he'd started as a young man but never finished. As the hours slipped by, he felt a sense of peace he'd almost forgotten, a quiet contentment that didn't depend on anyone else's needs or expectations. Of course, old habits die hard. When a friend called that evening, John nearly picked up, ready to jump back into his familiar role. But he paused, took a breath, and reminded himself, "It's okay to put myself first, just for today." Over time, John learned to set gentle but firm boundaries. He explained to friends and family that he needed more time for himself, not because he didn't love them, but because he wanted to be able to show up as his best self. He said yes when he truly wanted to help, and no when he felt tired or overwhelmed. He also rediscovered old passions, building model trains, reading mysteries, even baking bread from scratch. He joined a local walking group, not out of obligation, but for the sheer pleasure of companionship and fresh air. Most importantly, John practiced being present with himself. He tried short meditations in the morning and wrote in a journal at night, reflecting on the day's small joys and lessons. He noticed that the more he honored his own needs, the more generous and patient he became with others. John's relationships didn't suffer. In fact, they deepened. Friends respected his honesty, and family members noticed he was happier and healthier. He was no longer the default problem solver, but he was still a caring presence, just one with more balance and boundaries. This isn't to say that embracing solitude is always easy. There are days when the quiet feels too deep, or when old feelings of guilt or loneliness resurface. But John has learned that these are just part of the journey. On tough days, he reaches out to a trusted friend or attends a local community group, reminding himself that solitude doesn't mean cutting off connection. It simply means choosing when, how, and with whom to share his time. So, what can we learn from John's story and the countless others like his? First, that self-care is not selfish. By tending to your own needs, body, mind, and spirit, you replenish the well from which you give to others. You become more patient, more joyful, and more resilient. Second, that boundaries are not walls. They are invitations to respect, for yourself and others. When you communicate your needs clearly, you give your loved ones the gift of honesty, and you model a healthier way of relating. Third, that connection, when chosen freely, is far sweeter than obligation. Seek out groups and activities that light you up, not just those that fill your calendar. Fourth, that calming the mind, even with just a few breaths, can help transform solitude from something to endure into something to savor. And finally, that embracing solitude is a practice, not a destination. Some days will be easier than others. What matters is that you show up for yourself, gently and consistently, with the same kindness you've always given to those around you. As you move forward, I encourage you to look for small ways to make solitude your own. Try keeping a list of activities that bring you peace, or a journal where you can write about your feelings. Tell your loved ones what you need, and don't be afraid to say no when you must. If you struggle with this, remember John's example. It's never too late to learn a new way of being. And in giving yourself the gift of solitude, you just might discover a deeper, richer connection to yourself, and, in time, to those you love. Solitude, after all, is not an empty room or an absence of love. It is the soft place where your spirit can rest, renew, and bloom. And as you embrace it, may you find the gentle peace and joy that you have always so richly deserved. As we come to the close of this journey together, I want to remind you of something very important. Your life is a treasure, and you deserve to live it with kindness, especially kindness toward yourself. After years of giving so much to others, it's okay, even necessary, to pause and care for your own heart and spirit. Choosing solitude doesn't mean turning away from the people you love. It means creating space to breathe, reflect, and recharge so that when you are with others, you can be your fullest, most joyful self. Remember John's story, how learning to say no and embracing quiet moments brought him peace and renewed energy. That same possibility exists for you. Life after 65 is not about fading into the background or losing your sense of purpose. It's about rediscovering who you are beyond all roles and responsibilities. It's about honoring your needs, listening to your heart, and permitting yourself to find joy in simple, everyday moments. Whether that's a walk in the park, a good book, or just sitting quietly with your thoughts. I encourage you to take the gentle steps we've talked about. Care for yourself, set clear boundaries, seek meaningful connections, and find calm in your mind through breathing or meditation. Each small choice is a powerful act of self-love and respect. You've earned this time, this peace. So please, be patient and kind with yourself as you explore what solitude can mean in your life. You are worthy of happiness, rest, and all the quiet blessings this chapter can bring. Thank you for sharing your time with me today. If this message has touched your heart, please share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. Let's support one another on this beautiful journey. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that uplift and inspire older hearts like yours. Remember, you are never alone.